Good evening, all. Welcome to the Blue Tinted Glasses instant reaction. It's finished at the King Power on the last Sunday of 2024. Manchester City 2, Leicester City 0, but a game where the score was perhaps a little misleading. Looking at the stats, a very close game. Would you believe it? Leicester City actually had more possession than Manchester City at home. Big surprise there. XG, very close. I've actually heard that according to some, there's more XG for Leicester, but let's call it roughly the same. We made more big chances, and ultimately just a very frustrating game where we perhaps should have got a lot more than what we actually did. So I'm going to start with the man who's always got something to say, but I think he might actually be quite positive today. Luke, what did you make of that performance? Leicester City 0, Manchester City 2.
Really promising. We saw some continuity of I've just massacred that word since the Liverpool game, mate. You know, really big improvement. Good to see that the back. I'm really surprised the centre back pairing. We'll touch on that later, but very solid. Shame not to come away. A lot of chances. A lot of positives from like Bilal and Samara. Again, we'll get onto that. But mate, to be honest with you, where was this team in some of the last few games, mate? I think we've got a lot to be positive about with one eye in the transfer window.
Absolutely. Manny, what did you make of that game and performance?
I thought it was one of our better performances of the season. You know, we wasn't just the first half where we looked decent. The second half we controlled it. It's just the same situation twice. We're on top and we get sucker punched, and it's just one of those situations where you didn't get what you deserved today. But so many positive signs that I would take from style of play, from individual performances. I only thought we had a couple of bad performances. So disappointing, though, that we have to start turning those kind of performances into points.
Absolutely. Lox has joined us for the instant match reaction. We are blessed. Well, what do you make of that? I'll be interested. I didn't hear you through the second half, but were you having regret, or did you like what you were seeing? What was going through your mind?
I'm torn a little bit. I think I'm quite disappointed with how the game ended, if I'm honest with you. I think the reason, you know, we just weren't clinical enough, basically, and we had plenty of chances there to put the goal, to put the ball in the back of the net. It's very frustrating that it never happened, and you know, no matter what the form is like, right, Man City's form, you know that a team with them types of players, they will make you pay for your missed chances without a shadow of a doubt. And that's what happened. And I am really interested to hear what Anil, you've got to say actually about the change, the Hamza change, and whether that affected the shape, because I feel like from that point on, we lost momentum. And I did say before the sub was made, I said that if Rude could have played the same 11 for the whole 90 minutes, he would have. And I even feel we may have got a goal. But yeah, that's just obviously me being maybe a bit naive. But yeah, of course there's positives. I am very frustrated, though. I'm very frustrated.
No, I agree with you, Lox. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm frustrated because really, you know, we should have got a goal. I mean, here we go. Vardy has missed a sitter in the first half. If that was Daka, would be getting pelters. Second half, an even better chance, in my opinion. So, you know, that's unfortunate. Our best player, who you'd normally be so kind of like dependable, has, I wouldn't say let us down, but he's not had one of his best games. It is what it is. Someone put here, which I think has got, which goes, you know, this was one of our best team and full 90-minute performances all season, but actually we've lost, which is a bit unfortunate. But, you know, I think if you were looking at it from a neutral point of view, you'd be thinking Leicester look like a pretty good team. I mean, that's a very flattering scoreline, is what I would say. The Hamza change and the shape change, we'll come to that in a little moment. But let's start working way through the players and you know, what was happening in the game. Got to talk about this man, surely. Bilal El-Khanous was absolutely electric. I think this is something that's really interesting as well. Here's the momentum, and you can see that, you know, for large spells, Leicester had a lot of pressure, but we just couldn't take these opportunities of like really having high pressure on Man City and score. That's really what was, you know, the thing that was missing. Here we go, Buzz. That was a mid-table performance easily. I kind of feel with that. And I feel that, like, you know, with Rude, you're seeing, well, what could he have done with a better team? That's sort of where I will come to it. But let's look at the starting lineup. I think we were a bit, well, I was surprised if IU injured, Buonanotte came in. Maybe we can talk about his performance right now before we start going through the players one by one. Manny, what did you make of Facundo Buonanotte today?
I actually thought he was decent. I saw him working very late on in the match when we were 2-0 down. Just a little detail I wanted to see. Is there a reason why Rude hasn't been playing him? Is his head not quite in there? Is his motivation not quite there? But you could argue lacking a little bit of quality with the final finish. But he did hit the post, was a bit unlucky. But he does get involved. He is busy. His work rate was pretty high today. I thought he played well.
Fair enough. I've got to say, I was a bit disappointed with him, to be totally honest with you. It might sound harsh, but I feel like on another day he could have scored, and that would be the difference. He'd be a match winner, because that's the thing. Ultimately, we didn't score today. We're going to go through the players, but I think the one I'm going to start with right away, because everyone's talking about him for obvious reasons. We thought he was good against West Ham, but wow, how good was Bilal El Khanous today, Luke?
Right, thank you. Guys, everyone here, everyone in the comments, I am all aboard the hype train. I've been very optimistic about this player since the very first time I seen him into the pitch of a Leicester shirt. Let me tell you, he was absolutely everywhere, scanning the pitch. I think he had a 92% pass completion rate. He was brilliant. It's like that ball over the top, like straight away that he put over to Hamza Chowdhury at the right-hand side at the end was just ridiculous. He did so much in that game. In my opinion, he probably touched that ball more than anyone else on that pitch, and every single of those touches was magic. Mate, he is the all-in-all complete player, in my opinion. I think, like I said, 1 to 2 years, he'll be the next big sell we make after Madsen. Mate, he is a freak of nature. I'm definitely all aboard the hype train right now. He is my love child since he's replaced Maddison.
I think it sums up a lot, though, with El Khanous in the 94th minute. He comes running back, puts a challenge in, wins the ball back, and we get that last-minute corner off his hard work. So it shows you that he played the full 90 minutes. I think maybe he was reduced a little bit in his efficiency when Man City put on Kyle Walker, and we changed our shape with Hamza Chowdhury, which is kind of what Locks was alluding to. But generally speaking, it's interesting that he starts as a 10, but as you say, he drifts all over the place, Luke. And I think sometimes players like that are kind of interesting because sometimes they can be sort of positionally a bit of a problem, but when they've got so much talent like that, they just make everything happen. And like all the good moves were coming through Khanous. And really, it was one of those games just like, what should we do, boss? Pass it Bilal. That's basically what the game came down to, didn't it? Locks, do you want to talk to me about him? You must have been impressed with Bilal El Khanous today.
Oh, what a player. What a player. And you know what? I think, I'm not going to take any credit from him because it was an incredible performance, and I would say the best individual performance of the season from a Leicester player in a match. I think it was that good. But I want to go back to what I said before the match even started about maybe some young, hungry players wanting to impress on the big stage, and I think as well that did play its part. He's a young kid. He's come over from abroad. Of course, no matter whether people, we're naive and say he loves Leicester or not, he will dream of playing for a Man City one day. And I think that probably helped as well, him get up for the game. And I just think he was absolutely incredible. Like Kate said in our group chat, he's even better than Facundo, who we didn't think it was going to get better than Facundo earlier in the season. And now we just had that performance. So I think we've had a feeling for a few weeks, it started slow for him. We've had a feeling for a few weeks that, there is a hell of a player there and we need to get out of him. And you know what, mate, all I'll say is I hope he can bring out those levels against a Southampton, against an Ipswich, against a Palace, the not so attractive matches. He needs to bring the consistency. And if he can do that, he will be a major part of us staying up 100% without a shadow of a doubt.
Locks taking backhanders from Bilal is what they've been saying here, the chat, to make sure he gets a new deal. Well, why not? We want him to get a new deal. He was excellent. I think that's a very good question. I mean, someone's put here as well, good comment from Alex. For Bilal to get to Maddison levels, he needs to add goals and assists. But we saw that over time. That's what happened with Maddison as well. He started off pretty good, improved himself over time. Sean with an awesome comment. I think you're right. When Winks came off, he had to play deeper, and that's what kind of prevented his ability to kind of pull the strings. Bang on there. He was great. I think your comment there about, Bilal and can he do it against Southampton and teams like that? What tends to happen with players like this is now you're in that kind of phase where now everyone's like, okay, wow, they've got a bit of a player here. The next stage will be that teams will have a game plan to stop him, right? They'll start putting the reducers in him. People did this to James Maddison. So I think it might get worse before it gets better, but we'll see. I mean, one thing that I think is good is despite his sort of size, he ain't scared about putting it about, right? You know, he puts in the challenges, he doesn't shirk the physical responsibility. So yeah, he was absolutely brilliant. I think just someone will hopefully make highlights clips of just Bilal from that game. It was unbelievable. Some of the through, I can think of so many. That through ball that he put into Buonanotte, why didn't he shoot? I don't know. He went for the penalty. He played a brilliant crossfield ball to Hamza. There's so many great touches he made. And yeah, to do that at 20 years old, as Manny says, if they're good enough, they're old enough. And I would agree. All right, let's go through some of the other players. So
can I just show this comment, Anil?
Yeah, go for it.
This is from the watch along. This whole game is a YouTube highlight video for Bill. They could literally just show, you could just find 10, 20, 30 highlights from that game on Bilal, upload it as a YouTube video, 150,000 views straight off the bat. You know what I mean? Crazy.
Yeah, or if you've ever got Y Scout, it'll do a similar thing. It'll have some really good highlights for this one. Absolutely. It's interesting that, Joseph, you put Bilal equals Yuri, which is kind of what Lucas said. But I thought he's like a very dynamic player because he's sort of like, he honestly reminds me of more of a classic number 10. Like your classic number 10s used to drift all over the place, get involved. You know, they basically had a free role. And it's almost like, I would say, you know, fair play to Rude because to begin with, you know, him taking Buonanotte out of the team, maybe we should just talk about that. Obviously, today they played together, but now he's preferred Bilal in the 10. But it feels like he's got that right, hasn't he? Bilal in the 10 position makes the team play better. Is that just because we've been blindsided by one good game, or is that true?
No, I have to. I'm so fucking itching to say this. Bilal, you just said him. Why is that? You just said to me he's all over the pitch, but he's all over the pitch and winning the ball at the right times, and he's picking up the right pass. So he is the most important thing we cannot all stress enough is that he is an intelligent player, and he's just hit that precipice now where he's got that confidence. And even if he does get targeted and isolated as like a pressing trigger for other teams when they do their homework, it just frees up more space for someone like Buonanotte. So now he's going to be your man that's going to get the ball. Do you know what I mean? Like Mavididi for Fatah sort of thing last season. I know we've just lost, but if you can't tell by how excited I am really excited about Bilal. I genuinely think that he's going to be a monster. Oh, shut up. I'm sorry.
I want to hear what Manny has to say about Bilal.
Sorry, Manny.
20 years old, no experience in the Premier League. Turns up with 15 games in, he's the best player on the pitch, including Man City's players. What more do you need to know? If you get that quality, and fair play to the scouting team who's identified him, got the deal over the line. Obviously, they know the Belgian league pretty well. But now, very, very quickly, we're reaping the benefits of that. And imagine how good he's going to be at 23. Imagine how good he'll be at 25. What is the ceiling for this kid? He could play anywhere. He could play left wing, left 8, right 8. He could play right wing if you need him. He could probably drop in and play as a pivot player as well. This is just such a versatile, fantastic talent that we've got our hands on. But we just need more of them to give him some support.
We better not get relegated because there's no way a player like this plays in the Championship. Way too good. Okay, let's talk about our number 1 today, Jakub Stolarczyk. Bit unfortunate. He definitely made an error there for that first goal. You could see he was angry with himself, and it's pretty unfortunate because other than that, Man City had not really carved us open. Even that particular goal wasn't them carving us open. He should have either smothered the ball or pushed it far wider. I think some of the guys here is saying that, like, well, maybe JJ could have been there. I actually don't think it was JJ's fault because he was marking Bernardo Silva, the attacking 8. But if you look at where Facundo Buonanotte was, he was nowhere. And that has been a problem all season long. So maybe it's a bit of a problem to have sort of seen that. But look, I would even defend Buonanotte in that I don't think a team should be scoring off that anyway. After that, he was pretty good overall. I still think he was better than... I'd rather have Stolarczyk in goal than Danny Ward. I always think a young keeper is going to make mistakes. Mads Hermansen made mistakes last season. He made a few. Most of the times he was absolutely incredible, but sometimes he did it. So I think we need to get behind him. But what do you guys make of him? Locke, what did you make of Stolarczyk?
Yeah, I mean, he was okay. You know, I think this is basically what I said in the Liverpool game as well. That, you know, if you look at it objectively, he was okay in both games. Obviously, if you compare it to Danny Ward and what Danny Ward would have done and has done, then it's leaps and bounds above him. Is it anywhere near Hermansen's levels? No. And you know, look, all I'm going to say, and I said it in the watch along, and I'll say the same now, is if Danny Ward made the mistake that he did in the first half, he would be getting absolute pelters. He'd be chased out of Leicester with pitchforks. So, you know, just yeah, use that little bit of context, maybe, people. But yeah, I genuinely believe that he is of course much better than Ward, but the more I see of him now, I don't want to be too harsh on him. I don't think he is ready to start. I'm not saying he would, because obviously we've got Herbert, so I'm not sure he's ready to be a number one keeper in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, I think he wouldn't be, right? But he's had to play that kind of role. And look, I think this is a really good comment. We can play good football for the rest of the season, but in the Premier League, errors get punished. That's the thing, isn't it? In the Championship, you probably get away with that. But in the Premier League, you do that. It's still a very good finish from Savinho. And that's the thing, is it kills you. It's the same with the second goal that we'll get to in a moment. It was there. But, he was not too bad. All right, let's move on to this guy, Victor Christensen. Now, Duck has tactically decided to pull out of this one. I mean, I've got to say personally, I think he was our worst player today. I think he was poor both defensively and offensively. This is where when Manny says if they're good enough, they're old enough sort of thing. But I don't know. Like the thing is like you can look at that second goal. It is good play from McAtee, but Christensen, even he's the one that's ended up marking Haaland for the header in, so he's almost at fault twice. He had some opportunities going forward as well. Look, I still think there's a player in there. He's definitely been better, I think, this time round. But the thing that kind of scares me is that at the end of the day, Christensen was in the team the last time we got relegated, and how much has he really stepped up? We're running out of games now. We're literally at the halfway point. We'll bring up the table in a second. I'm trying to wait for the other games to finish, but I was not too impressed on him. Manny, you talk to me about Victor Christensen.
Bad day at the office with Victor. Thought he was just looked out of place, out of shape, just running around a bit like a headless chicken, just chasing the ball at times, not really looking about runners, players, not being able to make enough tackles, one-on-one, looked sketchy, just looked nervous all around, a bit panicky. But that's what you're going to get often with a 22-year-old player. You're not going to get man of the match every week. And yeah, it was a bad day at the office at the same time. The question is, do we have anybody else to replace him at the moment? No. Is that an area that we would look at? Maybe, or a change of shape. But Victor has had some good performances under Ruud too. So we have to balance it out, the good with the bad. So today was a bad one, though. No doubt about that.
It's interesting that on the scouting report, a lot of us mentioned the left centre back, but no one mentioned like an out and out left back, which, given that you've got Luke Thomas as understudy, V1 here with JJ as left back. Yeah.
Doc wouldn't mention a left back.
Yeah, well, he could play both, couldn't he? That's for sure. Yeah, look, a Danish international shouldn't be nervous or shaky. I think that's kind of fair enough. Luke, what did you think of Christensen?
Yeah, poor again, unfortunately for me. I think he was born in the wrong era of football for the Premier League, to be honest with you, to get the absolute best out of him. I genuinely am convinced. Look, mate, he's just, in my opinion, for the system that we're going to play, not viable. And I definitely think we need fullbacks on each side. We probably are going to have Ricardo Pereira coming back soon at some point, but we don't know what he's going to look like at his age and his injuries. And you could move JJ to the left. But for now, we've got no other options to start anyone that left-hand side unless you want Thomas. So, yeah, for me, poor on the ball today, Christensen, and needs to get more comfortable with using his right foot as well instead of playing himself into trouble very early, similar to Keane and Dewsbury Hall, but nowhere near the same quality.
Are we staying up, guys? I think that all depends on the window. Let's be absolutely honest. I'm going to come to the centre halves in a second. I'm going to come on to JJ instead, just because Buzz is absolutely smashing the Hamza love, saying he should be brought in instead of JJ. It was funny seeing, I mean, Manny said this to me as well. He just said, is Hamza Chowdhury playing as a right winger? But he was getting stuck in and making things happening. What did we make of James Justin? And then, we can talk a little bit about the Hamza cameo as well. Manny, you talk to me about the both of them.
JJ needs to spell out the team. For whatever reason, he just needs a break. He's positionally, I thought he was out of fault for the first goal. He's just too far away from his winger at times. He's tucking in, which is kind of what he's supposed to do. But he's tucking in too far. And he just keeps getting caught out of position. On the flip side, I did think he did some half-decent things in attack. He tried to drive forward down the line a few times. He's a danger at set pieces with his headers. He's got a good spring on him. But too many goals coming from that right-hand side. It's just been like that all season. And I think it's time to give Hamza's on any option at the minute until we get someone in from the window. So I'd probably give Hamza a start.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, is that it doesn't help him when you've got those goals coming down the right-hand side when Bonanotte is also in the team. And if you look at that first goal, I mean, Bonanotte is nowhere to be seen till right at the very end. As I say, I think it's still a goalkeeping error, but it's not the first or last time that we'll see that happening. Luke, what did you make of Hamza when he came on?
I got to be honest with you. So, like, I've been quite harsh with him for a while and saying his championship squad level. He today was really, really good on the ball. I was actually very, very surprised. He had maybe one dodgy moment where it looked like he half shot and half crossed it into Vardy the box. But other than that, mate, he was in the right places at the right time. Didn't get caught with his pants down like JJ does. So I wouldn't say starting week in, week out. JJ definitely needs to spell off. We just haven't got really many options. But this seems to be a recurring, cycle with Hamza. He does something decent. You start giving him a run of games. He's poor again. You remember why he's on the bench. But look, mate, today for the cameo appearance he was on, I thought it was really, really good.
Some bad news there with the Wolves result. All right, before we go on to them, let's talk about our centre backs, Connor Cody and Vestergaard. Manny, why don't you talk to me about the pair of them?
Both pretty similar today. I thought they were fairly solid for most of the game. Actually dealt with Haaland pretty well most of the game. Obviously, that one break was different when Haaland got on the wrong side of Vestergaard, I think it was, and VK was trying to come back. But it's Haaland. He's going to create a chance. To be honest, though, if we really break it down, he had several chances that he could have even got a few more. But I didn't think these two did anything particularly bad. They were pretty comfortable making their clearances. Vestergaard in particular was trying to play this passes in through between the lines centrally, try and get attacks going. Yeah, I thought they were fine today, actually.
Yeah, maybe if I'm being a bit harsh, I would say that for the Haaland goal, why are neither of them picking him up and leaving him to Victor Christensen? Doesn't make sense given that Christensen's come from outside to in to defend it, but Christensen shouldn't have got done like that in the first place. Buzzer said, Okoli over Cody for me. Cody hasn't offered anything to the team for me. Vesti's passing is great for us, and Okoli is faster than Cody as well. What do you think about that?
I want that. I want to take that again because I agree with that completely. I've been pushing Okoli for a few weeks now. Cody is just so slow when he's out of position. He's trying to hunt back. And I didn't see him particularly screaming or shouting at anybody today, trying to offer that, leadership that he supposedly does. Nothing, he was fine. He was okay. But I think we have a better quality player sitting on the bench. Like Booba sat on the bench for months and months and we were just doing nothing with him. And the talent was right there. I think there's a similar situation with Okoli and we're going to say, how has this guy not been playing? So I would definitely like Okoli in, and I'd probably keep Vestergaard.
I think maybe to defend him, it's because his passing on the ball is pretty decent. And, we were good at playing back to front today against Man City. Like, we literally had more possession than him. So pretty decent. But I think this is a fair point. Cody keeps players on the side so much, then waves his hand in the air. And that's never a good sign. And why does Ruud van Nistelrooy keep giving Okoli 5-minute sub appearances? It's to sort of show that you're still in my plans, even though I'm not using you. He's trying to say that your opportunity will come. That's what I think is where he's going for. And, Clibbo, this is a fair point. Okoli is shocking positionally. We've definitely seen some evidence of that in the past. All right, let's talk about our double pivot. Let's start with Manny's favourite player first. It's Harry Winks. What did you make of his performance today?
Credit where credit's due. I thought he had a good solid game today, all round. I saw him working hard, really hard in defence, actually, chasing back as hard as he could. Passing, fine, it always is. He was between the lines. He was keeping things ticked over. I didn't see him get caught too many times on the ball today, although I think Man City's press was completely off for the whole game. They just looked like they lacked energy and speed and all those things that I like. But he was.
Well, they didn't press, did they? That was the crazy thing.
Yeah,
they didn't really press.
Again, so if you don't press Winks, he's got the ability to look good and do some positive things. My question with Winks is always when somebody's on him instantaneously, then under pressure he struggles. But they didn't put him under much pressure today, so he looked fine. Partially because he was also, well, I'm sure you'll come to it in a minute, his partner in crime was having an absolute blinder today. So they were potentially worried about him so much, and Winks was given a bit more of a free ride. But Winks was good today, so no criticism from me.
Cool. Interesting question is, what's the best 11? I'm frustrated we don't know what our best is so many games deep. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what our best 11 is at the moment either. I think the problem is that we've obviously been ravaged by injuries, and some of these players aren't that good. I do think, though, that if you looked at today's game as a neutral, we played pretty well. Like, we looked like a very well-coached team. That's not something you could say under Steve Cooper. But the big issue is that just like, if we don't have players that are good enough, the high level of the Premier League, any error you make gets punished. And that's what's happening today. We basically played pretty well today, but haven't scored when we had our chances. And then they've scored their chances and you've lost it 2-0. And it doesn't matter if it's a good performance. At the end of the day, the result is a poor one. All right, Manny, I'm going to keep with you just because I've been throwing you some absolute clunkers. So I thought I'll give you a good one. Talk to me about boobs. Bouba Soumare.
I mean, he's just a young Yaya Toure. We've been saying it for a while now. Big, strong, good control, can shield the ball, can pass the ball, can beat a man when he wants to. He's got a step over even. He's got an eye for a pass. He can defend. He can attack. He can head the ball. He still makes those odd slips, odd mistake, 1 or 2 mistakes a match where you think, oh dear, that's not good. But he's not the finished article. He's still growing and getting better as a player. And we're seeing the benefits. Here's a different kind of young player that, some players can walk into the team and be great, and some players take a year or 2 or even 3 to develop. We saw that with Saliba, remember? Saliba was an instantaneous hit, but look at him now. I'd say in a similar, but in midfield, Bouba Soumare is very similar. It takes a few years sometimes to adapt from French culture to living in Leicester. Whoever knows what it might be, maybe he didn't have the right love, but for whatever reason, he's hit it off. To be fair, even before Ruud arrived, he was starting to hit it off. But under Ruud, he just keeps getting better and better. And I've predicted it already. When this player leaves our club, it will be 40 plus.
All right, depends on his contract length, is what I think, but it's possible. This is an interesting comment. Bouba getting his mandatory yellow card. He does pick up yellow every game, but do you know what? I feel he's pretty unlucky. Most of the times when he gets a booking, you just think, why has he got it? He doesn't do anything necessarily that cynical. He almost gets picked on a little bit. I'd say maybe the one bad thing he did all game is almost at the end of the first half, he tried to play out. Kevin De Bruyne almost robbed him, and they almost got through that time. But that is going to happen sometimes as part of the double pivot. I would genuinely agree that overall he was really, really good. You can trust him. He picks up the ball. He broke up play a lot. He won a lot of challenges and duels. That's the biggest thing for me that he's added to his game. I feel that he could still be a bit better positionally, he lets people run a little bit too much. But for sure, he is a good player for sure. Do you want to say anything about him, Locks? Because I know you're a big Boobs fan.
Yeah, absolutely. But I prefer boobs to that ass that could overread. No, listen, look, I hear what Manny's saying as well about going for 40 million. I mean, we can always rely on Manny to overvalue players. So that's a given. But no, I think he's been really good. It was a shame in the week. I saw people after the Liverpool game blaming Soumare, and I'm like, mate, the agenda is old. Get over it. He's playing like a different player. Although what I will say, Anil, that comment midweek was probably it made me think. I think it was the comment saying these players, Soumare, Vestergaard, they haven't improved. It's just that the quality options, backup options, are just a lot worse than what they were back in 2022 when we had, Soumare was maybe a backup to Tielemans. Vestergaard maybe was a backup to Fofana. There's a big drop off there. So that's probably played its part as well. But with the current squad, Soumare, he's absolutely performing to the level he should be, I think. And what I will say is, Ruud van Nistelrooy has a massive dilemma. Now, Manny will say it's easy. But with how he's playing, and maybe with how Winks has played today, if that continues, I'm not saying indeed he shouldn't come into the team, Manny, but I'm saying, what does Ruud do with who does he drop? It might be easy to say Winks, but then we lose a part of our game when Winks comes out of the team. So it's a tough decision for him to make. But that type of headache is only a good thing, right? It's better than the skip Hamza Chowdhury headache that he had a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I remember, let's not judge Winks just on one game where Man City decided not to press him all day. Even when you're playing a lower in the table team, they will press him harder than that. And didn't Winks? I mean, Winks got half against Wolves, and didn't he get the whole match against Liverpool too? He's okay, but Ndidi is a different kind of player, I admit, and you may well lose something in your attacking formations and beginnings, but you just gain so much else. And remember, we did concede 2-0 today. We lost 2-0, and since Wilf has been out, I think we've scored 1, conceded 12. If I'm not right, I think that's right. I think that's good. Since Wilf's been out of our team, and you remember about a month ago I said, watch how many goals we start conceding now that Wilf's not there. So you've got to have that balance between trying to find more in attack, but ultimately we are leaking too many goals, right? We are leaking goals. 4 against Newcastle, 3 against Wolves, 3 against Liverpool, 2 today. And that was with Haaland didn't have his shooting boots on. we have got to. It's not just the defenders who are responsible for defending alone. They need the players in front of them to do as much as they can. And Booba was excellent in that today, and Winks was decent in that. But Ndidi is exceptional at that. So, like I said, non-negotiable. I'm tired of this one, Lux. Let it go. Ndidi always starts.
No. You misheard me. I didn't say Ndidi shouldn't start. I just said it's a dilemma because Winks, Samari, Ndidi. I don't think there's any doubt there. They are our three best central midfielders. So picking between them is a bit of a challenge for Ruud. So we'll see what he picks. We'll see what he decides.
Well, you could even argue that he tried Bilal there for a portion of the game, so he's looking at that as a potential option for down the line. But he does. It's nice to have options. I agree with you there. It's nice to have that headache, but it's clear who the starter should be if you're going to play a 2. If you're going to play a 3, it's a different question.
Yeah, look, I think Manny's bang on with the fact that as soon as Ndidi's come out of the team, the goals have started going in the other end. That's a fact. That's what he helped shore you up with. Lux, this is one of your favourite players, so why don't you talk to me about Stefi Mavididi?
Yeah, he was good. What are you laughing at, Manny, man? Come on.
Come on, I've been waiting for this.
No, he was good. There were still some frustrating moments for sure. I think there were some moments, especially in the first half, where he should have taken his man on and he didn't. But overall, I think it was a very good performance. Again, it's not been fully bad for Mavididi this season. There's been some really good moments and I would say a lot more bad moments. But today was a very good day for him. Some people will say that he was, the best player on the pitch. Some people will say he was terrible. I don't think it's either of them. What I will say is, without a shadow of a doubt, he deserves to start the next one, because that was my whole thing a few weeks ago. Does he deserve to play the next one, or does Ayew? But with recent performances, without a shadow of a doubt, yeah, Mavididi needs to start the next one. He was really good, and he would have had an assist. I mean, we'll get to it. Obviously, we'll get to that man up front soon, but I think he was let down a little bit today. Mavididi, he should have got an assist.
Why does he never pass to Victor Christensen? To be fair, maybe because he's realised he's just not a good player.
I think that's harsh. I agree that Christensen was crap today, but he needs to start doing it more. I mean, there's clearly options, right? I mean, today I think I counted 2 or 3 times where there was an overlap from Victor, and rather than using it, he went backwards. And I've not got a problem with Mavididi as such, not choosing the overlap, but then doing some step overs and trying to be a bit direct, try and get towards goal. The thing that annoys me is when he chooses not to go with Victor and then goes backwards. It's like, come on, man, you've got an option there on your left, and it's an option, and it's a chance to get the ball in the box, and he didn't take it. And there were a couple of times like that today. So that was the frustrating
Well, exactly.
part
That's why I wanted to bring up this comment, because Mavididi got much better in the second half, but he didn't take his man on enough in the first one. And that's something that frustrates me about him. It's like last season, the team was set up to isolate those wingers one-on-one versus a fullback, beat them to make a chance, be creative that way. But in today's game, look, fair play, it is against Man City, but it's a Man City that's a bit weak on their, in terms of their confidence. And he didn't really once, really attempt to go down the byline. He turned back too much or played the safe ball, other than that one time where he played a really delicious cross to Vardy. So look, I would like to see that a bit more. I think it's definitely an element of our game that compared to last season we've been lacking, that sort of like flair and trickery on either side.
Can I just say as well, Anil, before Manny gets on his high horse about Mavididi, Manny had two slots to bring players forward to this team in the scouting report, and he chose the left winger, Malik. So come on, Manny, you'd rather Malik. There are better options out there.
It would be easy me to try and be a bit smug about, after Mavididi's had a good game, to try and make that as a point to prove. But actually, I'm going to go the other way with Mavididi today. I'm so frustrated that he keeps cutting inside every time. He needs to get to the byline more. When was the last time you saw him try to even win a corner, for example? It's getting too predictable. He's not passing to Victor when he makes an overlap, so Victor's now going to stop making that run in the first place, and you get a little bit too predictable that whole left-hand side. The reason why Mavididi was £6 million and not 30 plus is because he lacks that end finish, and I'm tired of having a shot going off target or straight at the keeper. We need end product, And you've got your opportunity and you're back in the team and you are playing well, don't get me wrong. But in the next 4 or 5 games, we actually need 2 goals, 2 assists, that kind of level, because we're in a dogfight. And if you can't ultimately produce end product, then we have to look elsewhere at somebody who might be a higher level that can. But the opportunity's there. I think he can do it. I've always been a supporter of him, you know that. But I want to raise the bar and say, look, I want to see some goals. I want to see some actual assists. Unlucky today with the Vardy chance, of course. But, I want to see him bend one like Gakpo did in the side netting, in the top corner. He can do it. He did it in the Championship. He did it away against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge last season. But let's see if he can do it the next few weeks.
Well, so speaking of, I think it's only right that I bring this man up. Jamie Vardy, bad day at the office again. He got into good positions, but he had an absolute gilt edge opportunity there. Mavididi playing him in. I can't believe he didn't score that. He put it over as well. That was even worse. Should he have headed it instead? Perhaps so. But what did you make of Jamie Vardy? Just a bad day at the office, or is there something more to it? Luke, you talk to me about JV.
Jamie Vardy, yeah, I think just a bad day at the office. People are screaming, saying, like if that was Daka, would be screaming for missing those chances. But Vardy has credit in the bank and Daka doesn't. I think that last chance, you could maybe make the argument, maybe he should have headed it. It did go over the bar, but it was quite a difficult ball to take on. And let's be real here, like half a volley cross in. Look, Vardy, the intelligence is still there. The pace is not what it once was, but I will say though, in terms of intelligence, unfortunately today he was offside twice, which is kind of uncharacteristic of Jamie Vardy, making those timed runs off the shoulder of the centre back. But look, man, I'm not going to get on his back today. He's still in the game. He's still thinking. I still think he's got more to offer. I just don't think it was his day today.
Yeah, anyone got anything else to add to that? It'd be interesting to see if we do bring in a striker on loan in the window. Don't think there's too many good ones around there.
I mean, sorry to say, I think he let us down today, Vards. Yeah, I think he took it well. The penalty incident which was offside, he took that well. He would have won a penalty if it was onside. Obviously, it was very, very close. If Buonanotte releases that ball a second earlier, he's onside and he wins a penalty, and we probably go. Was it 1-0 at that point? 1-0 up, we would have gone. And yeah, again, there were a couple times really. Yeah, you're right, Harry in the chat. For someone who's usually really good with timing his runs, there were a few times today where he was offside, and which could have led to good chances. And I don't know if that was intentional by Pep and by the defenders, by the Man City defenders, or if it was just unlucky from Vardy or wrongly timed. And then the chance, the chance where he took it past the keeper after there was a bit of an error from, I think it was Vardy. That was a tight angle. You can't really put too much on him for that, but
bad first touch though.
Yes, that's true. But the chance for Mavididi's one, I mean, if you look at any single player in our club and say, who do you want on the end of that? You'd say Vardy, and unfortunately, he couldn't put it away. And like I said, that's why I think he let Mavididi down really on an assist. So, I'm going to say it, Luke. I know you mentioned it, but if it was Daka, people would be same with the whole Ward-Stolarczyk thing. People would be proper getting into him. I suppose at least Vardy actually hit the ball, and Daka would have probably missed it entirely. So, yeah.
Would you guys take Tom Cannon back in the January transfer window if Daka's not up to, which we all know, and let's say Vardy can't be playing outright 90 minutes week in, week out, especially if running fixtures like this? Do you think that we could do something similar that we did last season when we started Kelechi and Vardy playing, 60-minute 1 week and one would sub on for 30 and vice versa and swap it over? I'm in favour of Tom Cannon coming back if he's going to be doing that, but not if he's going to be sitting on the bench competing with Daka. But in my opinion, just stop wasting time with Daka. You're not going to get the return on what you paid for him. We have Samari, hopefully, but not with Daka. So in my opinion, I think we need to start promoting Cannon or get someone in.
But people would have said the same about Samari 6 months ago. Stop wasting your time with Samari. You're never going to get a return, right? People said the same. People were saying the same. So, I get your point, Luke. Every time Daka does something good, like the West Ham game, he follows it up with clanger after clanger, and I get that. But I don't know. I think if we can bring in a striker, a talisman, to get 10 goals, even 10 goals, let's say, the second half of the season, then I think we need to do that. However, if we can't, then I would bring Cannon back. I don't think that's a question. I mean, Stoke have just sacked their manager as well, haven't they? So
twice they've done that this season.
Exactly. So a bit of chaos there, maybe just get him back. He might get more. Well, I won't say he won't get more game time with us, but he might get a better run of games. Maybe build a bit of consistency, a bit of confidence. So, yeah, I don't know. If we can't get a striker, bring him back. But I think the priority should be to just bring in a striker. Sign a new one, sign a new permanent one.
Yeah. What did we make of Will Alves? He only came on for a few minutes at the end, but that was his Premier League debut. Anything that we want to say about him? Didn't really get too involved, did he, with the game?
Had 2 touches in 5 minutes. What can you say?
But were they good touches? Could score 2? No, that's fair enough. That is fair enough. All right. Yeah. I think what I'll do is I'll bring up then some of the results from around and where the table looks like. So here you can see we lost 2-0. Palace beat Southampton. They were 1-0 down. Forest, the second in the Premier League table. That makes that sound so wrong to say. They beat Everton 2-0, but that is, I suppose, good for us. But Wolves, they came back with an injury time equaliser against Spurs for 2-2. And that means that the table now, after literally, this is the official halfway point in the table. So now is when you can start making fairly clear assessments of where we are as a team. So we've got 14 points from 19 games. That would put us on for 28 points over the 38. That just doesn't feel good enough. I mean, this is considering the fact that we got away with the PSR deduction as well. Feels grim. So what are we thinking? I will start with Locks.
As it stands, yeah. I mean, literally, as it stands, we're going down. There is big investment needed in the squad. I mean, we spoke about this the other day on the Scouting Show, so we don't need to go over that again. But the results today: Spurs draw 2-2 with Wolves. It's a shame, mate, because as a neutral, you want to enjoy another Spurs shocking performance and a bit of a Spurs collapse and probably another manager about to get sacked. But we can't enjoy it because of Wolves. It was Wolves that got a point, and look at them, they're 2 points above us. Everton now, I mean, you look at Palace, for example. Where were we? 14th. I mean, somebody said it in the chat, mate. We were 14th under Steve Cooper. We all know, and we would all probably say that we wouldn't be there at this point under Cooper. But we were 14th, and now we're 18th, and we're 6 points off 15th. So the gap will continue to grow, I believe. The thing, I mentioned this on a show the other day with you, Anil, and the frustrating part is we don't actually have, until the end of the season, a run of easy fixtures. There's kind of like difficult teams and easier on paper teams thrown into a mix all the way until the end of the season. And it's not until the end of the season we've got a decent run. So it's going to be difficult, really, really difficult for Ruud and the players to actually build a bit of consistency. In fact, I'd probably put a prediction on the line and say that we won't win 3 games in a row this season. It won't happen from now on. That's how a bit horrible the fixtures are. So we've got to pick up the results from somewhere. That starts, I think, with the January window. The Villa game's coming up. If we play exactly how we did today against Villa, of course, you'd probably say we could get something from it. However, it's a different team, different systems, all of this type of stuff. Football isn't that simple. So it's a worrying sign, that table, and it's only going to get more worrying, I think, as time goes on.
Luke, what do you make of it? Where do you think we're going to end up now that we've gone through one half of the season?
I think we've all got one eye on the transfer window. We won't touch on it too much because I know you guys have just done a show on it, but I just think that if we can get it right without mentioning any names and who we want, just talking positions and stuff like that, then I think that definitely because of the improvements that you are seeing with some, regularity of, who we're sticking to the same similar 11, I definitely think that we can improve. We saw a massive improvement, a lot of the patterns of play. Granted, Man City didn't do the normal pressing like they do. But look, if you think about the passing patterns that we're making, how fast we're doing, the positioning and the triangles that you saw, particularly in the second half of that game, I think that shows a lot of, some improvement, which is purely from drilling. And with the assistant coach and manager we just brought in, the Barry Bob, or whatever his name is, from Man City, basically Maresca's successor, I definitely think there's something to be optimistic about. Again, remind ourselves, I know we're feeling a bit flat right now, some of the results that we've seen, but we have just played Liverpool and we have just played Man City, and Ruud van Nistelrooy has not had a preseason or a say in the matter of the players he wanted to bring in. So I'm not going to panic stations just yet. I think it's going to be massively dictated on the run of games we have in the next 6 to 7 games. I've got it up on screen if you want to share it, but I'm not as doom and gloom just yet.
That's fair enough. What about you, Manny? What are you feeling about our chances of staying up this season?
Every time you drop into the bottom three and you see our rivals picking up points, then you're going to get nervous. And then when I look at that table, I'm trying to find one of those teams that I think are going to go down. But when I look at Palace, Everton and Wolves, all I can think of is a case of why they're going to stay up. So that puts us in a precarious position. So therefore, we need to elevate our own level and not just rely on those people who said, 14th, 15th on the Cooper. That was when Wolves and Palace had like 1 point, 2 points. All of a sudden, those teams have normalised, as we said that they would do, and they've started picking up points. What we need to do is be good enough to beat Man United, get a point at Tottenham. These are the kind of performances that our rivals are doing. Everton have had 2 draws against Arsenal and another good team. I can't remember.
They drew against Man City as well, didn't they?
Chelsea, I think it was as well. Did they draw
Yeah.
against Chelsea? So look, we have to up our level in order to actually get over the line. We've shown today that we can compete with those teams. What we need to have is a bit more players who can be a bit more clinical and a bit more support in that area. And I think essentially January is absolutely key. And the bare minimum we need is a right wing and a right back. Those 2 are absolutely key positions. I think in everywhere else, we've got competency. If not excitement in some areas, we've got competency, but we need 2 quality players in those 2 positions.
That's fair enough. Well, look, to wrap up the show and to maybe give people a little bit of optimism before we go. So cast your mind back to this. This is 10 years ago. This was the 2014-2015 season. And bottom of the table after match day 19 was little old Leicester City. Only had 13 points compared to the 14 that we have now. And we were 3 points away from Burnley. We, in fact, lost a lot more games before we started making a comeback. But you know what happened this season? We did have a good transfer window. We brought in a few people. We brought in a centre-half, just want to throw that out there, called Robert Hoof. We brought in some that can play on the wing in Mark Albrighton. And the rest, as they say, is history. And we stayed up. And what I will say is that I feel that today's result and performance remind me a lot of that season, because in that season we had a lot of games where we actually played pretty well, but we just didn't get our result from it. And then towards the end we started being a bit more aggressive and we got out of it in the end. Now look, it's a very different league. It's probably very optimistic for me to suggest that it could happen again. Locks is muted, but I can pretty much see that he's saying I'm smoking crack. But
No.
I am an optimist.
I was going to say, look at the state of that Premier League as well. Burnley,
Yeah.
Hull, West Brom, QPR, Sunderland, Stoke. Oh, it's disgusting. It's much harder these days, Anil, mate. I think you are smoking crack.
Of course it is. Well, look, there you go. You got to keep the faith is what I would say. So look, guys, I think I'm going to keep it there. Thank you very much for joining us. Ultimately, it wasn't to be. We've lost 2-0 at home to Man City. A good performance, but the result isn't what we wanted. With that, that's the end of Blue Tinted Glasses for this year, but 2025 is just around the corner. Join us for the call-in show tomorrow at 7 p.m. If you want to get involved, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Until then, take care and goodbye.